Hey guys, it's Rush, hope you're doing well, welcome back to the channel. This video today I'm going to talk about the Hori Octapro again and some of the more recent modifications that I've made to the controller. Now if you've followed the streams recently, you'll know that I've still had problems with the controller. The main issues I've had are still with the motion inputs. I find it very difficult to get the motion inputs very cleanly in tense situations. I noticed that I'm pressing multiple buttons by mistake on the face of the controller and also pressing the L2 shoulder button. So this is not the controller I've been using on stream. It's the old controller, but I've put the new backing plate on. This is the new backing plate with the regular rear shoulder buttons. You can see the face has been sanded down. So that's the original Octapro face that I had, and the analog stick's been removed. So that's all that's been done to this controller. So this is not the one that I've been using on stream. So the one that I've been using, now brace yourselves, it's a bit crazy. It's this controller you see in front of you. So I know you look at this thinking, my gosh, Rush has lost his mind. But let me explain what I've done to this control pad. So going through each modification one by one to explain why I've done this to the controller. We'll first talk about the D-pad. So this is the same Saturn D-pad. If you remember, I said I glued this in place because it kept popping out on stream. But this is different. If you look at it from a side angle, can you see how the Saturn D-pad is almost flat now? That is not what a normal Saturn D-pad looks like. I'll put that to one side for a second. This is a normal Sega Saturn D-pad. This is from the, I think it's the retro, no, not the retro bit. This is the 8-bit DOE Saturn D-pad. And you can see that the up, down, left, right on this D-pad has a lip on it. It concaves inwards. It has a lip. It's like a dish, and the center is the lowest part. Now, reasons behind this and to explain why I sanded it down. So I look back at older controllers, particularly the Hori Fighting Commander, the one you see in front of you, and the B-Top. I don't have a B-Top with me, but the B-Top C3 Fight Pad. And these D-pads are much more flat. There is an ever so slight curve to this. You see there's a little curve, but for the most part, it feels flat. It's definitely much more flat than the Sega Saturn D-pad, which I just showed you. This is much more curved. Looking at the Turtle Beach, this it does have a curved D-pad. It curves inwards. It's only ever so slight, but the directional inputs have a real steep lip to them. So I mentioned before that when I use this pad, my thumb sort of sits on the edge of the pad, this like circle on the edge, which doesn't feel very nice, especially how the edges are sharp as well. I don't like that. So I don't like the like sort of flicked directional buttons and then this sharp, tough edge. The B-Top C3 as well, that has a completely flat D-pad, and that, in my opinion, is actually the best D-pad. I actually think the B-Top D-pad, in terms of the shape and design of the D-pad itself, is the better D-pad. It's actually better than the Sega Saturn D-pad, in my opinion. So that's why I've sanded this down, and this to me feels a lot better, in my opinion. Second modification is to the L2 button. I've further sanded this down. You can see there's a significant amount gone now in terms of the material on the top of the shoulder button. This is what it was like before, and I was still accidentally pressing this on this side. Looking at things like how I hold the controller, which is important, how I hold the controller, I like to rest my fingers on the top of the pad. So my middle finger sits behind the controller, and then my index fingers sit at the lip at the top. So that's how I naturally hold the controller, and that's why I was accidentally pressing this. It's more critical for my index finger on the left to be in this position to make sure that my hand is secure on the D-pad, so I'm not moving. Here, it's not so important because I'm just my hand's actually moving a lot to press these buttons, but my hand here on the left-hand side never moves. So having a secure and locked position is super important to get clean inputs, and that's why I was mispressing that. So I've took it down. You probably can't take that down anymore without risk of it breaking or snapping. So that is a lot better as well. The face buttons, so this is an addition I've made. I've sanded down the face buttons. If I'm honest, you can feel the difference. I can definitely feel because the edges are very sharp. But the reason I've done that, I've tried to take off some of the material to sort of avoid multi-pressing. I'm trying to show like a bit difficult to show you. You can see this sits quite high. It's very easy to press these by mistake. They're very sensitive. So when you're trying to press triangle, for example, that would have been circle. It is still circle, but you can't see circle. It's very easy to accidentally press circle whilst you press triangle because they're switches and there's not much travel. If I compare it to the old Hori Fighting Commander, yes, they are close together and a similar shape, but there's more restriction on pressing them. There's actually more force required to get the button presses. And I don't think I've ever pressed two by mistake. It's actually quite difficult to do that on this pad. I prefer the feedback of the buttons on this controller. But when compared again to the HoriOcta Pro, these are very, very sensitive. So I've sanded them down. I've actually sanded down the tops of them more than the bottom to give it like a bit of an angle. I can't really tell if it's made a difference, but I thought I'd give it a shot and see how that felt. And the last modification is to the handle. So there's logic behind what I've done. It may not make any sense at all to you, but pay attention to the angle that my thumb sits at, particularly the left-hand side of the D-pad. So if I rest my thumb naturally, so if I hold this naturally, I don't emphasize it going to the left, to the right. I just point my thumb straight in line with the angle of my hand. You can see it's almost at a 45-degree angle. If I now hold the old Hori Fighting Commander, again in a natural position, because of the shape of the controller, look at my index fingers first. They sit over the shoulder button, so I'll never accidentally press them because they sit on top. I have to pull my finger back to press these. That's where they would normally sit, just completely out of the way. But look at the thumb, the left thumb position. It is at a 45-degree angle, and that feels natural to me. And this is the pad that I used back in the day, so that is what my left thumb is used to doing, used to sitting like that on this controller. So now let's look at the Turtle Beach. The Turtle Beach, you can see, holding that naturally. My thumb sits very similarly to the modified HoriOcta Pro controller. It's not quite 45 degrees, it's more at like a 35 degree angle. And now let's look at the HoriOcta Pro with the regular handles. If I hold this naturally, look at the angle of my thumb on the left-hand side. It's at a much more steep angle, and that's because of how the sides of the controller are shaped. They're quite steep, but they actually come inwards. They don't point outwards. So to explain how I've padded out the bottom of the controller, the handles, all I've done is I've used gaffer tape, many layers of gaffer tape, and I've just built the corner of the controls on each side out, and then this on each side. This is actually a balloon. So I was looking around the house for things that I could wrap that would be tight around the controller. I looked for rubber gloves, like the nylon gloves. I tried cutting the thumb off the glove and wrapping the thumb around it. It was way too tight. It wouldn't go around it, but snapping. So I thought, what about a balloon? So I got some balloons, some of the kids' balloons, and I cut them, and that's what's wrapped around the sides. If I turn it over, you look at this one, you can actually see, turn it over, you can see the happy birthday. Oh, would it say birthday boy? It says birthday boy on that side. So it's really ghetto, but it served its purpose. It actually has built the side out to make the angle a lot better. But that's not the final modification I made to the pad. There is another last mod that I've done, but I can't show you. I mean, I could take it apart and show you, but number one, I don't want to take it apart, you know, with all this stuff going on. But also number two, I took pictures of the progress when I did this to show you guys in the video. So here's the pictures now. So on screen now, you can see a Xbox Series S/X controller. What I've done is I've taken out the sticky pads from the D-pad. Now, the reason I've done this, I was talking to Stripes. Shout out to Stripes. Make sure you give him a follow on his YouTube channel. And he was saying that the best sticky pads to stick onto the D-pad PCB are from the Xbox. The ones you buy online are third-party sticky pads, and they work, but they are not the best ones. The best ones come from the Xbox controller directly. So there's an image of the pad taken apart, and you can actually see the sticky pads now underneath the D-pad. So there in the background of that picture, you can see the sticky pad where I've started peeling it away from the circuit board. And this is a picture after I've took the sticky paper off the Xbox circuit board. I've cut the sticky pads out. The reason why you have to cut them is because they don't fit on the Hori PCB in the same alignment as the Xbox one. So you have to squash the pads together a bit more. So you cut each one out, and I've stuck them back onto the HoriOcta Pro PCB. There was still a bit of stickiness left in them, so I've just stuck them on raw. I haven't added any extra tape or anything to them. And when I added them back to the controller and tested it, it did feel better than the third-party sticky pads that I'd used. So if you're looking to use sticky metal pads on the actual Hori D-pad PCB, it is more expensive if you buy an Xbox controller and you rip it apart. It is quite difficult to rip the Xbox controller apart as well, but they are the better ones to use. So the question is, how does the controller feel now? Well, I much prefer the D-pad. So with the D-pad change, what I've noticed is in Street Fighter 6 particularly is my motion inputs now are super fast. It actually reminds me of the old Hori Fighting Commander controller. So when I'm doing super inputs very quickly in both directions, they come out super fast. And I feel that's because my thumb, I use the ball of my thumb, not the tip, but the ball of my thumb can move around so much quicker. The angle of my thumb, like this, is much better. I actually want to buff it out a bit more on that left-hand side. If you look at it, if you look at the pad, I think it's angled more on the right-hand side anyway, so it's not actually even. But I do want it out more on this side to have a more optimal position for me personally, my hand on that D-pad. It does feel better than normal, but I feel like I can get some more gains on that side, so I'm going to change that. But so far, this feels like a more natural position for me and my thumb on the D-pad. The rear shoulder button is much better, a lot less accidental presses. With the face buttons, I feel like this was me being like extra. I didn't really have to do this, but I thought, let me try. You know, the gains, if there is a gain to be had here of me not now pressing these buttons by mistake when I press the top row, the gains are marginal, very, very small, very insignificant gains. But if you know me, you know what I'm like. I like to be a perfectionist. I like things to be a certain way once I have a vision, an idea. So I thought, let me just try it out. Especially this, I noticed normally it's these two that I press, but I've noticed me pressing, it's R1, R2 on the face of the pad, but these two extra buttons quite a lot more recently. So shaving off the top section, it's got a slight angle to it, I can feel it. You know, it should make a difference. Marginal, but it should make a difference. I know this has been a crazy journey. I think this video highlights how crazy it's become, but if you've heard what I've said on stream, I have a vision. I've looked and studied old controllers. I've looked at my preferences, and that's what's influenced me to do this to the Hori Octa Pro. It's extreme, it's very ugly, but I promise you, for me and what I want out of a 6-button fight pad, it's made a difference. The risks of this are that modifying any controller, you know, you risk breaking the controller. This one is actually broken. These shoulder buttons do not work because the shoulder button PCB snapped off. If you do take it apart, especially with the shoulder button PCBs, be very careful when you pull them out. Don't pull them out and twist them. Just pull them out of the slot and then pull the whole circuit board out. So you got to be very careful with modding controllers. So that's it for the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Have I lost my mind? Are you inspired by this? I think ultimately where this journey is going down the line, if I ever could, I would love to make my own controller. I think I have the knowledge now of what I need to build my own controller, the perfect 6-button fight pad. But that is a mammoth task, and I don't know if I have the contacts or the know-how to get something developed like that. Not a 3D printed one. I'd want to build something similar to this, where it's got this finish, this D-pad design. So that's it for the video, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.